If you're currently in a place where you feel like you're broken, something inside you doesn't feel right, you feel like you're almost detached, separated from what you're doing, just sort of moving along in life, there's something I want to pass and share with you. You are not broken. What could be happening is there's a moment in your life where, or I should say, many of us go through moments in our lives where the stories that we've lived by, that almost control and narrate and give us our perspectives, our belief structures, are no longer congruent with who you need to become. So maybe there was a time in your life where there's a story that captivated you, a story that said you were supposed to be a rock star, you were supposed to be a charitable person, you're supposed to put the needs of others before yourself. And perhaps you're at a point in your life where the story is not matching who you want to become. And you are having this sense of calling internally to evolve yourself, move towards a more integrated version of yourself, where the inner child, connected with the ego, integrated with the ego. You see, there's many moments in our lives that we realize we go, this is not who I want to be, and I feel tired of this old story. But we identify with our stories oftentimes, that we are the story. And so when that story no longer is in line with where we need to go, we feel this sense of loss, this identity loss, that I'm not who I'm supposed to be anymore. I thought this is who I was. But all that's really happening is you're transitioning into a more authentic you. And perhaps this message has come to you in different ways. Maybe someone said something that sparked, ignited this shift. Maybe you've just done the same things and repeatedly over time you just started to get more and more sick of it. Or maybe it came to you in a dream. I want to share something with you really quickly, a dream I had that relates to a shift I had in my life. This was a long time ago. I don't know about you guys, but I dream all the time. Every single night I have dreams. And some dreams mean something and some don't. Some seem random. But oftentimes you wake up and the dream has gripped you so deeply that is you can't ignore it and you have to give it its attention and you have to try to interpret it. There was a dream I had a long time ago where I was in my elementary school parking lot and there was a church just at the edge of that parking lot. Same church that we went to when I went to elementary school. And I was in the parking lot moving around, just playing around, and then all of a sudden I turn and then I see this Tyrannosaurus size chicken. And so, like, at first you think to yourself, okay, a giant chicken, like, I mean, how intimidating really could that be? But I mean, it was frightening. This large animal, like gigantic size, looking at me, clucking at me, and the sound boomed. It would absolutely vibrate your whole body. And then in just one moment, it looked at me, and it just beelined, started running right at me. And I remember at the time in the dream, I was fight or flight, two choices. I was like, I can either run, or I can just turn to face the thing. And so I decided to turn. I was nervous, frightful, but then in that split moment, there was this sort of courage that kicked in, this belief that kicked in. Turned to face it, and this giant chicken just like screeched his little feet, or not little feet, he screeched his feet against the floor, flapped his little tiny wings back, and then immediately it started to shrink all the way down into the size of an actual chicken, to where then it started to actually just run away from me. And then woke up from that dream, and when I reflected on that dream, the chicken symbolized at the time of my life these individuals who I was intimidated by. They controlled me. These bullies that I've had, literal actual bullies in my life. And I was intimidated by them, frightened by them, didn't know what they wanted, didn't know what I even did. I was a very passive child. I just wanted to play and do my own thing and make people feel welcome. And of course, I had my own mischievous side, but for the most part, I had a very pure spirit. And I didn't understand what was going on. And the church was the same exact church that I went to. So I went to school, and there was a church right around the corner. But it wasn't the church that I went to as a child. That church just symbolized the symbolism of church itself, where I was actually heavily bullied. And I was heavily bullied in that kind of environment. And so that, to me at the time, symbolized, okay, this giant chicken was the same individual. It represented the same individuals that bullied me when I was going to church. And by the way, this is not a dig on any people that go to church or anything. This is just an experience, my own experience. And I realized that these individuals that I was running away from, these people that were loud, these grandstanding bullies, were really fearful. Deep down, they were fearful, afraid. And so they had to grandstand against me to quiet me down. And when I started to really piece that together, because I've always been a passive individual when I was growing up, and even now, I don't like conflict. I don't run away from it now. I've spent a lot of my life building myself into being an athlete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, being a black belt now. And I am pretty good at it. And so I'm not really worried or afraid of anybody anymore, but at that time I was. But it gave me this insight as to an old story that I had, that I was always conflict avoidant, that I would always avoid the fight, not because of courage, but I would avoid the fight because I was afraid and scared. When the whole time, the individuals that were in particular picking on me, causing me distress, were really internally giant chickens, that if I had just faced them, perhaps things could have been different. Even if it didn't go exactly that way, where they backed down, or maybe it actually caught me in a lot of trouble, you will still be proud of the ability to stand up, the ability to have that courage, that alignment with your soul and the ego to say, you know what, that is enough. I'm done with this. And that story changed going forward. And now I said to myself, I will avoid fights at all costs. But if I was confronted by something that I had to deal with, I'm going to deal with it. I have to deal with it. And ever since I started doing that, my story shifted. But in between that time, I felt broken. I felt confused. Didn't know who I was. And so that's why, circling back, I say to you, perhaps there's something right now that is signaling to you a transition, a change of story, a change of narrative. And perhaps reflecting and sitting and observing your day-to-day, there could be something you can get from it. Maybe there's something in your mind, in your unconscious, that is trying to signal information to pay attention to observe, to study, to look at the dark elements of your mind, to cast light onto them, to understand them and integrate them, to move towards an ego and soul integration. So if this resonated with you, I'd love for you guys to join my community. If you click the link below, it'll send you over to my website. You can sign up to my free newsletter, and in return, I want to send you guys my 3-step identity rebuilding guide. This community is something that I wish I had during my time of identity loss, and it is an absolute pleasure of mine to now have it and to pass it on to you guys and have you join and rebuild purpose back into your life, rediscover who you are, and heading towards a more integrated ego and soul dynamic. And so again, click that link below. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next video.